Well, welcome back to Comstock's channel, accelerating the commercialization of decarbonization. To discuss the precious metal, sector, the entire operations going on here. Of course, we have Corrado, the CEO, joining us. Welcome back, sir.
Hey Cal, good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and a pleasure to get you on the back of this, what seems like a precious metal renaissance almost. Gold prices are hitting new highs. Basically, in your drive to decarbonize, some folks may have forgotten you kind of consolidated an entire historic gold and silver mining district, the Comstock Lode. You want to just talk about the readiness of this district and kind of where you stand on it today?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. Like about 4 or 5 years ago, we started this transformation into renewable energy. It's been incredible, right? So we've talked a lot about Comstock fuels and taking waste wood to low carbon fuels. We've talked about, this new urban mining, right, where we're taking solar panels into all these new minerals. But our legacy did start with the Comstock lode, as you said. And we consolidated 12 square miles of mineral properties. It's actually an unprecedented consolidation of an entire, world-class historic gold and silver mining district that people might not know that in the late 1800s, the Comstock produced over 8 million ounces of gold and almost 200 million ounces of silver. I mean, literally, Nevada is nicknamed the Silver State solely because of the Comstock lode. And it was the richest silver discovery in the country and resulted in Virginia City being one of the richest places on earth. No exaggeration. And so we consolidated, pal, what was hundreds, if not thousands, of individual claims. Some of them are very cool, like the Billy the Kid, or we own the Sutro Tunnel Company, which is a 3.5 mile tunnel that goes underneath all the mines right up to Virginia City. So that process of consolidating and then entitling, right, having master plans changed, having the zoning changed. We even rewrote the ordinances for surface mining and underground mining, for the county with the county. And so the entitlement process, the readiness process, if you will, also included getting and fully infrastructuring the processing, the beneficiation area, if you will, and then water, power, and all of that. And to this day, that platform and all of those permits are current. So we're really excited. I mean, gold pushing 2,800 new records, literally almost every week we're hearing that is extraordinary. We think it's still got a long way to run, but it means a lot. It's pretty powerful to us.
Yeah, do you want to just touch on how those higher precious metal prices are kind of impacting your business plans?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny when we started mining initially, it was 2012, and we stopped mining in 2016. The gold prices went at that time from $1,700 an ounce to about $1,000 an ounce. That's when we paused. But we have a second mine resource. We have two resources. One is called the Lucerne, and one is called the Dayton. They're about 1.5 miles from each other, all contiguous. And both of those resources have about, over 400,000 ounces of gold in the measured, indicated, and then also inferred categories, and millions of ounces of silver, totaling over 8 million ounces of silver. And so with the prices of gold hitting 2,800, it really got us focused on updating our mine plan for the Dayton resource, which is our second mine. And the initial cut, we were using a cutoff of like $1,800 gold and maybe equivalent price of closer to 22, 2,300. And it was throwing off $250 million of free cash flow in about a 5 to 6 year mine life. We went back and said, well, what if we raise the cutoff from 1,800 to 1,300? I'm sorry, 1,800 to 2,300, and it moved another 25% of ore into the mine plan. And so now we're pushing 350 to 400 million, of free cash flow over a 5.5, 6 year period. We haven't gone to 2,800 yet, but we've got something powerfully economic here.
Yeah. How do the mining activities kind of fit the sustainability or decarbonization aspects of your new mission?
It's a good question. I mean, I think honestly, in the beginning, what it did was pause it. We went after extremely low carbon fuels. We went after recycling of minerals, which frankly decarbonizes by, for most part, avoiding the mining, right? Reusing minerals without having to mine. So we challenged our team and said, how do you make this sustainable? Like, how does this look? And the first pass of it was pretty good. Talking about using autonomous vehicles, electric vehicles, but pretty much ideas that would incrementally lower the carbon footprint. So we said, that's good. It's not really great. We haven't really hit on the sustainability point. And then they came back with, a lot of this property is in residential and industrial areas that could be very, very valuable if we really thought and planned in advance some post-productive mining uses. In other words, rather than ending the mining process with a big hole in the ground or a big liability, what if we ended the process with a re-landscaped contour, like a developable set of real estate? And we have hundreds, if not thousands of acres that could fit, into that category in the northern part of Nevada where industry is booming and there's a housing crisis. So we're developing a plan now that we think will be pretty remarkable. I don't know if it's unique or unprecedented, but I surely don't think it's very common where you could produce $300-400 million of cash flow from an extractive mining activity, and then you might be able to produce a few hundreds of millions of dollars in valuable real estate and developable real estate values. And if you plan it in advance, if you plan the reclamations and restorations in advance, if you plan the power and energy infrastructure around it in advance, for example, using clean energy to power the mine that could then continue and persist to power the community thereafter, you've got something pretty interesting. So that's what we're working on. I think it's going to be pretty dramatic.
Yeah, fascinating to say the least. And I wouldn't mind just roping back around to, like you mentioned, gold kind of nearing that 2,800 an ounce mark. You really didn't touch on too much with the silver side of it, which is over 30. Do you want to just give some insight on the?
Yeah, no, I'm glad you asked that question. So, silver is pushing like $34. It's been up somewhat dramatically from the low 20s just a few months ago, although it's still, unlike gold, it's still off its all-time high. So silver has lagged, but what we see happening, gold is a monetary play. What we see happening in the world with governments devaluing their currencies, the US spending now over $1 trillion a year just in interest expense. I mentioned earlier, we think gold has a long way to run. We don't ultimately don't think it's a 4-digit price, it's a 5-digit price, but that's another story. Silver has lagged, and silver is an industrial metal. And what's fascinating is that just over the last 24 months, the supply and demand equation on silver inverted. There had been more silver being produced, than was being used. And so it kind of held the price down. But with primarily electrification and substantially solar panel deployment, the use of silver has gone up annually now to over 1 billion ounces per year, with production being somewhere around the 800 million ish number. There's now a demand pull on the price. So as people realize that, the price moved up to the mid 30s, but the projections for the electrification need are tremendously higher. And so we expect silver to have an even stronger run. Now, what's interesting there is that, the Comstock lode and the mining assets certainly will have millions of ounces of silver, but Comstock Metals, which is now recycling solar panels and has a plan to put out 3 new facilities just in the state of Nevada alone before it ends up expanding nationally, we've done some math. And based on the grades of silver that we're seeing today in our existing first facility that's recycling solar panels, frankly, based on the low end of the grades that we're seeing today, with 3 facilities up and running, we might become certainly top five, maybe top three silver producers in the state of Nevada. And I'll tell you, as that continues to grow, that's a huge growth profile with solar panel recycling. We could end up being the largest producer of silver from what people are now calling urban mining, right? Rather than hard rock mining. So we're super, super bullish on silver. And silver is not only a mining play for us, it's a recycling play for us. So that convergence, if you will, of our metals and mining production could make for quite an exciting profile moving forward.
For sure. And isn't both Comstock Mining and Comstock Metals a play on silver?
Absolutely both playing on silver. I think that, we were shocked, Kyle, like shocked when the first concentration of those fines in the recycling process were so high in grade. I mean, we know just about how much silver there is in each solar panel. We had some expectations on yields and how it would come out, but the yields, we're getting almost all of it, right? And so the concentrations per ton are very, very high numbers. And people will start to see that, as we start to now sell those silver fines, into the market. We're really a play on silver across both metals and mining. Absolutely.
Now, finally, just looking forward, any closing comments, either mining, metals, fuels?
Yeah, so I would say that, in the mining, we're looking to finalize this first phase of a mine plan. We're going to have to incorporate, we're going to be forced now to incorporate the higher prices, into the plan and into those cash profiles. And we're excited about that. With metals, we're ramping up. We're submitting our permit for our industry scale facility. As I mentioned, with three of those, we'll be talking about being one of the largest silver producers in the state of Nevada. But interestingly is we're just locking in more and more and more customers. So our revenue tripled from Q2 to Q3. We're looking at it tripling again, into Q4. That's very exciting. And then the fuels business, we announced the commercialization of our first three projects in Australia. We've got a couple of more on that side of the Atlantic, and we've got about a half a dozen right here in the United States. So we'll be having more commercial announcements. Really, all three lines of businesses are in a growth mode here. Obviously the mining one, as you introduced, being pushed by historically high precious metal prices. We couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah, definitely appreciate all this. And I think it was very clerical as we pass it off to you, the viewer. We'd love to know what you think in that comment section and subscribe for News Catalyst. As they hit the wire like this, we'll bring it to you here. But on that note, we look forward to catching you in the next one.